Welcome to Starbound. My name is Veronica and I'll be your narrator today. But before we get started into today's story, please check below to see if you're subscribed to our channel. It's 100% free and just allows our stories to pop up on your feed more often. The plan was precise, brutal, and utterly professional. The Vixari family, masters of calculated chaos, were going to send a message the Naxos would understand in screams and spilled credits. For generations, the Vixari had operated in the shadowed corners of galactic society, a criminal enterprise draped in the guise of tradition and familial loyalty. Their methods were sharp, their reach extensive, and their code, while morally bankrupt to most, was rigorously upheld within their own ranks. Tonight's objective: snatch the youngest Naxos, a pampered daughter of privilege, to leverage a favorable resolution to the escalating border dispute over the lucrative Xylos spice routes. Rain lashed against the viewport of the Vixari hovercar, blurring the neon signs of the neutral sector into streaks of color. Gorak, Crixnak's most trusted lieutenant, his elephantine gray hand gripping the armrest, watched the thermal display. A small bright heat signature pulsed at the target location, nestled within the opulent gardens of what their surveillance indicated was a Naxos safe house. Confirmed, he rumbled, his voice a low growl that vibrated in the confined space. He nodded to the two Vixari in the back, their burly forms tense and ready, weapons discreetly concealed beneath heavy cloaks. Go. The hovercar settled silently into a darkened alcove near the estate walls. The two Vixari moved with practiced fluidity, their thick hides blending into the shadows. Gorak monitored their progress on his wrist-mounted comm, his breath held tight in his chest. He'd overseen countless operations, each a calculated risk, but this one felt different. The Naxos were unpredictable, volatile. A misstep here could ignite a sector-wide war. The comm crackled. Reaching perimeter. Minimal resistance. Gorak exhaled, a slow, rumbling sound. So far, so clean. Minutes stretched, each one a taut wire of tension. Then, the signal, target secured, returning to vehicle. Relief flooded Gorak, heavy and warm. He signaled the driver, and the hovercar purred to life, gliding smoothly back into the rain-slicked streets. Inside the vehicle, the two Vixari sat impassive, their cloaks now concealing a small, bundled figure. Gorak glanced at the child, her face hidden within the folds of fabric. He didn't need to see her. She was just leverage, a means to an end. The hovercar sped through the city, bypassing checkpoints with forged clearances, until it reached the imposing gates of the Vixari family compound. Within the high walls, life continued as if the city outside was a galaxy away. Children played in enclosed gardens, their high-pitched Vixari calls echoing in the humid air. Family members strolled along the pathways, their deep voices mingling with the splash of the fountains. This was the heart of Vixari, their sanctuary, a place where even criminal enterprise bowed to the sanctity of family. Gorak escorted the child through the compound, not to a cold holding cell, but to a guest suite, a spacious room appointed with rich Vixari textiles and soft lighting, adhering to the family's code of civilized conduct, even in the most uncivilized of professions. Later, in the sterile quiet of Crixnak's office, the gravity of their error crashed down like a collapsing star. The initial bioscan had been cursory, focused on age and species, matching the Naxos daughter profile. But a more detailed analysis, triggered by an anomaly in the child's genetic markers, painted a horrifyingly different picture. Crixnax loomed over the datapad, his burly frame radiating a cold fury. This cannot be, he growled, his voice thick with disbelief. Gorak stood rigid, his gray hide paling under the fluorescent lights. The facial recognition, the secondary scan. It's conclusive, Dawn. We have Maya Timu. Crixknack stared at the image on the screen. A small human girl, maybe 8 cycles old, with dark hair pulled into uneven pigtails and wide, inquisitive brown eyes. Eyes that held no fear, only a spark of bright curiosity. And beneath the image, the stark, damning words, "Daughter of the Ambassador Telila Timu, Earth representative to the Galactic Council." The air in the office seemed to thicken, the hum of the ventilation system suddenly deafening. Earth, diplomatic immunity, Galactic Council intervention. This wasn't just a blunder, it was a cataclysm. The Naxos feud would be forgotten in the supernova repercussions about to explode upon the Vixari family. They hadn't just kidnapped a child, they had ignited a fuse that could obliterate everything they had built. The news hit Earth like a physical blow, a gut-wrenching wave of icy dread that silenced news feeds and stilled conversations mid-sentence. Maya Timu, bright spark of a child and daughter of their Galactic Council ambassador, vanished. One moment she was sketching fantastical creatures in the embassy gardens, the next, gone without a trace. Ambassador Telila Timu, a woman forged in the fires of galactic politics, received the news in the sterile, echoing chambers of the council. Her face, a mask of composed diplomacy, moments before, fractured. The warmth in her brown eyes turned glacial, her elegant frame stiffening with barely contained fury. But years of training held, and she responded not with a mother's raw grief, but with a diplomat's steely resolve. "The council will be informed," she stated, her voice clipped and precise, each word a shard of ice. "And Earth will respond." Across the galaxy, on the bridge of the Earth battlecruiser Daunting, Admiral Rania Manili received the urgent priority dispatch. Her salt and pepper hair, usually neatly cropped, was slightly disheveled from a long night overseeing fleet readiness drills. The scar bisecting her left cheek seemed to deepen as she read the report. Kidnapping. Ambassador's daughter. Vixari family suspected. A muscle clenched in her jaw. This wasn't some petty pirate raid. This was a deliberate act, a calculated provocation. "Alert Red Fleet," she commanded, her voice resonating with quiet authority. "Full mobilization. Target vector. Vixari space. And get me a secure line to the diplomatic command. Now." The bridge crew, a well-oiled machine honed by years of drills and simulations, sprang into action. Holographic displays flickered to life, charting courses. Weapon systems diagnostics ran at lightning speed, the low hum of the ship's engines deepening to a resonant thrum of impending power. Within the opulent, yet now suffocating, confines of the Vixari compound, Crixknack paced his office like a caged predator. The polished obsidian floor reflected his agitated movements, the heavy silence broken only by the rasp of his breathing. Return the girl. It was the only logical course. But how? To simply release her would be an admission of weakness, inviting vultures from every corner of the criminal underworld to pick at the Vixari's perceived vulnerability. To negotiate with Earth? Unthinkable. Yet holding her was an act of galactic suicide. He stopped pacing, his gaze falling upon a family portrait on his desk. His wife, serene and strong, and his children, their young faces full of innocent joy. Family, the cornerstone of everything. And now, that family was at the precipice of annihilation because of his organization's catastrophic error. He slammed a massive fist on the desk, the shock reverberating through the room. "Gorak!" he bellowed, his voice cracking like thunder. "Find a solution now, before everything we have built turns to ash." Unseen by Crixknack, in the lush, sprawling gardens of the compound, a young Vixari girl named Zixa wandered along a high, ornate fence. She was restless, bored with her lessons and in endless games with her siblings. Something felt different in the compound today, a heavy tension that hung in the air like a pre-storm humidity. As she rounded a bend in the path, a splash of color caught her eye. A small figure sat on the other side of the fence, amidst a riot of unfamiliar, vibrant flowers she'd never seen in the Vixari gardens. Curiosity overriding caution, Zixa approached. The figure was small, fragile-looking compared to the other children, with skin the color of warm earth and hair as dark and glossy as polished stone. She was humming softly to herself, sketching in a small pad, her brow furrowed in concentration. Zexa cleared her throat, a soft rumble in her chest. The girl startled, her head snapping up. Wide brown eyes, flecked with gold, met Zixa's. They were the most unusual eyes Zixa had ever seen, so open, so unguarded. "Hello," Zixa said, her voice hesitant. "Who are you?" Maya looked up at the towering Vixari girl, her missing front teeth making her small smile slightly lopsided. She didn't understand the rumbling sounds, but the tone was not angry, curious maybe. She pointed to herself. "Maya," she said clearly, enunciating each syllable. "I'm Maya." She tapped her chest again for emphasis. Then, pointing to the Vixari girl, she tilted her head questioningly. Zixa, understanding the gesture, placed a hand on her own chest. "Zixa," she replied, her voice still soft. "I am Zixa." And just like that, separated by a fence, by species, by the terrifying circumstances that had brought them together, a connection sparked. Maya, unfazed by Zixa's alien appearance, her inherent openness shining through. Zixa, captivated by Maya's gentle demeanor and the strange, melodic sounds of her language. They began to talk, Maya using simple words and gestures, Zixa mirroring them, slowly bridging the gap between them. Maya described Earth, her home, the blue oceans and towering trees, drawing pictures in the dirt with a twig to illustrate. Zixa, in turn, spoke of Vixari, the vast compound, her family, the complex web of traditions and expectations that shaped her life. Through the wrought iron bars of the fence, two vastly different worlds began to tentatively reach for each other, oblivious to the storm of galactic politics and familial crisis brewing around them. The garden, once Zixa's solitary escape, became a magnet, drawn by the novelty of a human child and Zixa's animated accounts of her new friend. Other young Vixari began to gravitate towards the fence. Siblings, cousins, and compound playmates, a cluster of smooth-skinned, wide-eyed youngsters, would gather, their rumbling Vixari voices a chorus of curiosity and hesitant greetings directed at the small figure on the other side. Maya, initially shy amidst the throng of gray hides and unfamiliar sounds, blossomed under their innocent fascination. She showed them her drawings, taught them simple earth games like clapping rhythms and finger rhymes, her bright laughter echoing through the garden, a sound strangely out of place yet undeniably joyous within the Vixari compound. The adults, however, watched these burgeoning interspecies friendships with growing unease. At first, it was dismissal as childish curiosity, fleeting and inconsequential. But as hours turned into cycles, the children's fascination deepened into genuine affection, their innocent questions piercing the carefully constructed walls of the Vixari worldview. "Why can't Maya come inside?" one young Vixari asked his father, his brow furrowed in confusion. "She's nice. Zexus says she's really, really nice." Another, echoing the sentiment, questioned his mother. "Is it bad to be friends with humans? Maya isn't bad." These simple inquiries, repeated across family gatherings and around dinner tables, chipped away at the ingrained Vixari distrust of outsiders, especially humans, who were often portrayed in Vixari stories as ruthless expansionists. The elders exchanged worried glances, the comfortable certainty of their world beginning to fray at the edges, unraveling thread by innocent thread. Outside the compound walls, the pressure intensified. Admiral Maniui's fleet, a silent, steel-clad behemoth, moved with methodical precision through Vixari space. Not with open aggression, not yet, but with a suffocating, inescapable presence. Earth vessels patrolled trade routes, intercepted communications, and conducted routine scans of known Vixari territories, each action a deliberate squeeze on the family's operations. Spice shipments were delayed, gambling dens went dark, information networks fractured under the weight of scrutiny. The Vexari's usually slick, invisible hand in the sector became clumsy, exposed, bleeding credits and influence with each passing cycle. Crixnax felt the tightening noose, the silent accusation in every intercept message, every flickering news report from the galactic networks, each one broadcasting the image of his daughter's kidnapper, his family, to the galaxy. One afternoon, Crixnax's wife's Lyra found herself drawn to the garden. She'd heard the children's excited chatter, the strange, lilting sounds of Maya's language, mixed with their own rougher Vixari tones. From the shadows of a flowering archway, she watched. Zixa and Maya sat close to the fence, heads bent together, Maya showing Zixa a small, intricately woven bracelet she'd fashioned from garden vines. The other Vixari children were scattered around them, some mimicking Maya's weaving, others listening intently as Maya pointed at different flowers, naming them in her soft voice. Lyra watched as Maya offered Zixa the bracelet, her small face beaming with pride. Zixa accepted it with a delighted rumble, carefully fastening it around her thicker wrist. A genuine smile, unguarded and pure, softened Zixa's young features. Lyra felt a pang in her chest, a warmth that had nothing to do with the humid garden air. Later that day, unnoticed, a small basket appeared near Maya's guest suite. Inside, soft Vixari fabrics, sweet-smelling fruits, and a hand-carved wooden toy. Small, almost insignificant gestures, but in the rigid, controlled world of the Vixari, they spoke volumes. Lyra, watching from a distance, knew then that the game had irrevocably changed. It was no longer just about power or territory or galactic politics. It was something far more dangerous, far more unpredictable. Children, and the unexpected unbreakable bonds of friendship. The galactic underworld, a shadowy ecosystem of shifting alliances and brutal betrayals, sensed weakness like predators scenting blood. Earth's fleet hadn't fired a shot, hadn't issued a formal declaration of war, but their silent blockade was more devastating than any orbital bombardment. The Vixari's operations ground to a near halt, their carefully cultivated network of smugglers, fixers, and data brokers paralyzed by fear and scrutiny. Other crime families, sensing the shift in power, began to circle. Whispers of deals and cooperation with Earth intelligence agencies circulating in the encrypted comm channels, each rumor a poisoned dart aimed at the heart of the family. Loyalty in the criminal world was a commodity with a rapidly depreciating value, especially when survival was on the line. Crixnax knew with a chilling certainty that he was standing on the precipice of a cascade of betrayals, each one threatening to topple his empire into ruin. Inside the compound, the siege of innocence continued. The children, oblivious to the galactic power plays and the crumbling foundation of their family's criminal enterprise, were focused on a far more immediate and a personal matter. Maya was lonely at mealtimes. Zixa, emboldened by her growing friendship and the unspoken support of the other children, approached her father during midday meal. "Father," she rumbled, her young voice surprisingly firm, "Maya is eating alone. It is not family." Crixnax, his appetite already non-existent, stared at his daughter, his usual gruffness softened by a weary resignation. "Zixa," he sighed, "this is complicated." But Zixa and the cluster of young Vixari flanking her were unmoved. Their large, innocent eyes, mirroring Zixa's concern, were a united front. "She is our friend," another young voice chimed in. "Friends eat together." Crixnock looked around the table, at the faces of his siblings, his cousins, his elders, all watching him, a mixture of apprehension and a dawning understanding in their gazes. He saw the unspoken question in their eye. What kind of family are we if we leave a guest, even a human guest, to eat alone? That evening, Maya found herself escorted, not by guards, but by a giggling cluster of Vixari children to the grand family dining hall. The vast space, usually echoing with boisterous Vixari conversation, fell into an unnerving silence as Maya entered. Every eye in the hall, young and old, turned towards her. Maya, clutching Zixa's hand, felt a flicker of fear, but Zixa's reassuring rumble and the warm smiles of the other children steadied her. A place had been set for her at the children's table, a small cushion placed on a large Vixari chair. The food, alien and pungent to Maya's senses, was offered with genuine warmth and clumsy attempts at explanation by the young Vixari. The adult conversation resumed, muted and hesitant, punctuated by the children's cheerful chatter and Maya's polite attempts to navigate the unfamiliar dishes. It was an awkward, surreal scene, a human child breaking bread with the Vixari mafia. It was a moment of unexpected, almost absurd domesticity amidst the looming threat of interstellar war. Yet beneath the surface awkwardness, a subtle shift occurred. The shared meal, however unconventional, however fraught with underlying tension, was a shared experience, a fragile bridge built across species and circumstance. Later that night, several senior family members requested to speak with Crixnock in private. Their concerns were not about Earth's fleet or the Noxus, or the crumbling criminal empire, but about their children. "Dawn," one elder rumbled, his voice low and grave. "The children, they are changing. They speak of friendship, of humans. They question our ways." Another added, "Our code is family first, Dawn, but what is family now? Are we protecting them by clinging to this?" He gestured vaguely, encompassing the entire criminal enterprise, the legacy of violence and fear. Crixnock listened, his burly frame heavy with the weight of their words. He saw the truth in their eyes, the dawning realization that their children's innocent affection for a human child was forcing them to confront the fundamental contradiction at the heart of their family business. Meanwhile, in the sterile, high-security Earth embassy on Galactic Central, Ambassador Timyu received a secure intelligence briefing. Satellite scans, intercepted communications, and human intelligence sources had triangulated Maya's likely location, the Vixari family compound. Relief flooded her, a fragile warmth in the icy grip of fear. But the relief was quickly tempered by grim reality. A military rescue, a direct assault on the compound, would be catastrophic. It would be interpreted as an act of war, not just by the Vixari, but by every crime family in the sector, potentially igniting a firestorm that would engulf the region. The briefing concluded with a stark assessment. "A military solution is unadvisable, Ambassador. It risks galactic destabilization." Talila stared at the holographic projection of the compound, a deceptively serene oasis of green within the sprawling cityscape. Her daughter was there, alive, but the path to bringing her home was not through force, but through a far more treacherous, far more uncertain route: diplomacy, in the heart of a criminal empire, balanced on the razor's edge of interstellar war. The compound tensed. Earth's fleet, no longer a distant threat, was closing in, their sensor sweeps painting detailed maps of the Vixari territory, each pulse a tightening heartbeat of pressure. Crixnock, his face a granite mask of grim resolve, issued the order. "Relocate the human child. Safer location. Prepare transport." The command rippled through the compound. carried by hushed voices and hurried footsteps. Gorak, his usual efficiency strained, began coordinating the transfer, his every movement shadowed by a palpable sense of dread. This wasn't a tactical maneuver. It felt like a surrender, a desperate attempt to mitigate the inevitable. But the Vixari children, attuned to the shift in the atmosphere and the undercurrent of adult anxiety, had their own plans. Zixa, her smooth brow furrowed with determination, gathered her siblings and cousins in the garden, their usual boisterous energy replaced by a quiet intensity. "They are going to move Maya," she rumbled, her voice low but firm. "They are going to take her away." A chorus of protests erupted, small Vixari voices raising an alarm. "No! We won't let them!" Zixa raised a hand, silencing the dissent. "We will protect her, here, in the garden." Drawing upon their intimate knowledge of the compound, its hidden pathways, its forgotten maintenance tunnels, the children devised a plan. When the transport team arrived at Maya's suite, they found not an empty room, but a barricaded garden. The children, Maya nestled safely in their midst, had sealed off the entrances with overturned planters, tangled vines, and sheer, stubborn Vixari willpower. Inside the garden, Maya, initially confused by the sudden flurry of activity, understood the others' intent. They were protecting her. A warmth spread through her chest, a feeling of belonging she hadn't expected, hadn't dared to hope for in this strange, alien place. She helped them pile branches against the fence, her small hands working alongside their larger, stronger ones. Zixa placed herself squarely in front of the main garden entrance, her young face set in determined scowl. "Maya stays here," she declared to the approaching transport team, her voice echoing with the combined resolve of all the children behind her. The transport team, hardened Vixari warriors accustomed to obedience and brute force, hesitated. These were children, their Dawn's children, their family's children. They wouldn't force their way through them. A tense standoff ensued, adult authority pitted against childish defiance, the fate of a galactic crisis hanging in the balance within a walled garden. Words of the children's rebellion reached Krixnock. He stood in his office, staring at the surveillance feed of the garden, the chaotic tableau of small Vixari figures and one small human girl, united in their improbable defense. He saw Zixa, her back ramrod straight, her stance mirroring his own in moments of defiance. A flicker of something akin to pride, mixed with a profound sense of despair, crossed his face. Unseen, unheard, several family members, deeply conflicted, quietly intervened. A whispered comm message to the transport team: "Stand down. Await further orders." A deliberate, slow response to Krixnock's increasingly frantic demands for updates. A subtle manipulation of security protocols, creating delays, confusion, plausible deniability. They were buying time for the children, for Maya, for themselves. They were choosing family, in its most unexpected and purest form, over the cold, brutal calculus of their criminal empire. Above the compound, in the cold vacuum of space, Admiral Manili watched the unfolding situation with a seasoned officer's detached scrutiny and a mother's hidden anxiety. Her fleet's sensors registered the unusual activity within the Vixari compound, the internal security shifts, the scrambled communications, the children in the garden? She zoomed in on the garden feed, her gaze narrowing as she focused on the small human girl at the center of the Vixari's children's protective circle. Maya, alive and befriended? The readings were anomalous. No signs of distress from the girl, no forced confinement, no fear. Just children playing in a garden. Admiral Manili leaned back in her command chair, her scared face thoughtful. Aggression, force, might still be necessary. But perhaps there was another way. A slower way, a more delicate way. A way that wouldn't just rescue a child, but might impossibly save a galaxy from war. She issued a new order to her fleet. Maintain current position. Hold and open a secure channel to Ambassador Timu immediately. The game indeed had changed, and humanity, as it so often did, was about to rewrite the rules. The foundation of Crixnock's authority, once unshakable, began to crack under the strain. The open defiance of the children was a symptom of deeper malaise within the family. Whispers of discontent, previously confined to hushed corners, now echoed in meeting rooms and family gatherings. Senior members, emboldened by the children's stand and terrified by the looming Earth fleet, voiced their anxieties with increasing directness. Don, one of his cousins, began, his voice rough with unease. "Our operations, they're collapsing. The other families circle like carrion birds." Another interjected. "The children ask questions we have no answers for. They see differently." The word hung in the air, unspoken but understood. Morality. The very quality they had built their empire by exploiting, by suppressing, by viewing as weakness. Now, embodied in a small, innocent child, it was dismantling their world from within. Crixnock listened, his usual booming pronouncements replaced by a weary silence. He saw the fear in their eyes, but also something else. A nascent hope, a desperate yearning for a way out. He thought of Zixa, her small form radiating defiance, her unwavering loyalty to a human child. He thought of his wife, Lyra, her quiet acts of kindness towards Maya, her unspoken dissent. His family, his fiercely protected, ruthlessly loyal family, was fracturing, not from external pressure, but from an internal revolution of conscience, sparked by the most unexpected of cataclysms. In the heart of the besieged garden, Maya, surrounded by her Vexari protectors, was unknowingly mirroring her mother's diplomatic instincts, witnessing the tension radiating from the adult Vexari who occasionally approached the garden fence. The worried rumblings, the strained exchanges with Zixa and the other children. Maya sensed the conflict. She didn't understand the intricacies of galactic crime families or interstellar politics, but she understood emotions. She saw the worry in the adults' eyes, the fear beneath their gruff exteriors, and she did what came naturally to her. She tried to help. Drawing upon half-remembered phrases and gestures she's observed in her mother's diplomatic receptions, Maya began to mediate. She offered drawings to the worried adults, small, brightly colored pictures of humans and Vexari playing together, side by side. She shared her simple human snacks, bland crackers and dried fruit, offering them with a shy smile. She listened patiently to their rumbling anxieties, even though she understood only fragments of their language. Her presence itself a silent reassurance, a bridge across a chasm of fear and misunderstanding. Ambassador Timu, light years away, was engaged in a parallel, galaxy-spanning act of diplomacy, working through carefully cultivated back channels in the criminal underworld, data brokers, neutral territory contacts, even former adversaries. She was weaving a delicate web of communication. Her message was clear, conveyed with quiet but unwavering resolve. Earth sought the safe return of her daughter, not through bloodshed, not through galactic conflagration, but through cooperation. She offered a carefully crafted olive branch, a promise of leniency, of a path towards something else, something beyond the endless cycle of violence and retribution for those willing to choose it. The message, like ripples in a dark pond, spread through the underworld, reaching even the shadowed corners of the Vexari network, a whisper of an alternative to annihilation. Within the compound, Zixa and the Vexari children solidified their unlikely alliance. The garden became their sanctuary, their headquarters, their symbol of resistance. They organized cultural exchange fairs, showcasing Maya's human games and stories alongside Vexari traditions, inviting, and sometimes gently persuading, adult family members to participate. They crafted signs, clumsy but heartfelt, in both Vexari script and Maya's human alphabet, declaring the garden a friendship zone. They became a unified, surprisingly effective force of innocent disruption, Their unwavering focus on Maya's well-being and their newfound interspecies friendships a potent counterpoint to the adult world's cynical calculations and violent power struggles. The Vexari children, led by Zixa's quiet determination and Maya's gentle spirit, were unknowingly forging a new path for their family. A path away from the shadows and towards a future they couldn't yet imagine, but one that held the promise of something brighter. Earth's fleet, a silent cordon of steel and resolve, tightened its perimeter around the Vexari compound. But as targeting systems locked on, ready to unleash devastating firepower at a moment's notice, strange anomalies began to appear. Weapon systems glitched, targeting locks wavered, communications channels filled with static. Admiral Manili, her brow furrowed in concentration, studied the sensor readings. Jamming? She questioned, her voice sharp but localized. Origin point within the compound? The fleet's advanced sensor suites struggled to pinpoint the source, the jamming signal shifting, elusive, almost organic. It's not external, the sensors officer confirmed, his voice laced with disbelief. It's internal? Something within the compound is actively disrupting our targeting. Unbeknownst to the fleet, deep within the Vexari network, a different kind of signal was being transmitted. Encrypted messages, bypassing official channels, were being routed towards Earth intelligence, carrying a desperate plea. "We can help," the messages whispered in broken galactic standard. "Family divided. Children changed us. Want different future. Help us, help you." The messages were fragmented, untraceable, originating from multiple, seemingly random points within the Vexari territory, but they painted a clear picture. The Vexari family was not a monolith. It was fractured, conflicted, on the verge of implosion, and a faction within, driven by the unexpected influence of their children and a small human girl, was reaching out for salvation. Crixnock, oblivious by the clandestine communications, was confronted with a more immediate betrayal. He summoned Lyra to his office, his voice heavy with suspicion. Rumors, whispers, inconsistencies in security logs, they all pointed to one unthinkable conclusion. "Lyra," he rumbled, his gaze fixed on his wife, "there are whispers of unauthorized communications, of assistance to the humans." Lyra met his gaze, her expression calm, unwavering. "It is true, Crixnax," she stated, her voice clear and steady. "I have been communicating with intermediaries." Crixnock's burly form stiffened, his gray hide darkening with suppressed fury. "Betrayal?" he roared, the word echoing in the confines of the office. Lyra remained unmoved. "Not betrayal, Crixnox," she countered, her voice firm. "Survival. For our children. For our family. This empire, it's crumbling. Our children see it. I see it. Do you not?" Just then, Zixa's voice crackled over the office comm system, urgent and insistent. "Father, come to the garden. Quickly! Maya, we have a surprise." Crixnox hesitated, his anger wearing with the flicker of paternal curiosity. He followed Lyra out of the office, a knot of apprehension tightening in his chest. As they approached the garden, the sounds of the children's excited chatter, mixed with unfamiliar, lilting human melodies, grew louder. Stepping through the garden archway, Crixnox stopped, stunned. The garden has been transformed. Banners, crafted from scavenged fabrics and painted with clumsy but vibrant designs, fluttered in the breeze. Tables, fashioned from overtuned planters and garden benches, were laden with a bizarre assortment of objects: human toys, Vexari artifacts, drawings, woven bracelets, strange, pungent Vexari delicacies, alongside Maya's bland human snacks. Crixnox blinked, his eyes struggling to process the scene. Maya, beaming, stood beside Zixa, holding a crudely drawn banner that read in both languages, "Friendship Fair." Adult Vixari, hesitant but curious, were mingling with their children, examining the displays and tentatively sampling the unfamiliar foods. Laughter, genuine and unrestrained, filled the air, a sound utterly alien to the usual tense atmosphere of the Vixari compound. Maya, her small voice amplified by Zixa's rumbling tones, began to explain in very broken Vixari while gesturing enthusiastically at the displays. This, Earth things, games, stories, and Vixari things. Foods, toys. See? Same! Different? Good. Crixnock stared at the scene, his carefully constructed world tilting on its axis. A cultural exchange fair, in the middle of a galactic crisis, organized by children, spearheaded by a human child and his own daughter. It was absurd. It was impossible. And yet, it was happening. He looked at Lyra, a silent question in his eyes. Lyra met his gaze, a faint smile playing on her lips. "They are showing us the way, Crixnock," she muttered, her voice barely audible over the cheerful chaos. "Our children. And Maya. They are showing what we could gain if we choose differently." In the heart of the garden, amidst the innocent chaos of the Friendship Fair, Crixnox began to see not the crumbling ruins of his criminal empire, but the fragile seeds of a better future. The shuttle, emblazoned by the Earth's embassy seal and flanked by escort fighters bearing the insignias of rival crime families, descended into the Vixari compound under a flag of truce. Ambassador Talila Timu, her face a carefully composed mask of diplomatic neutrality, stepped onto Vixari soil, her gaze sweeping over the assembled family members. Beside her stood representatives from Naxos, the Sylvani, and the Krill, former adversaries of the Vexari, and now uneasy allies in this unprecedented negotiation. The air crackled with tension, a volatile mix of suspicion, desperation, and a fragile sliver of hope. Crixnox, flanked by Lyra and his senior advisors, approached the Earth ambassador, his burly frame radiating a mixture of defiance and resignation. "Ambassador Timu," he rumbled, his voice surprisingly steady, "you honor us with your presence." Talila inclined her head, her expression unreadable. "Don Crixnack," she replied, her voice cool and precise. "We are here to discuss the return of my daughter." Before Crixnock could respond, a chorus of small voices erupted from the garden. Zixa, Maya at her side, led a procession of Vixari children towards the assembled adults. They carried banners, drawings, and woven bracelets they'd created, their faces alight with earnest determination. Reaching the line of adult Vixari, Zixa stepped forward, her small form radiating unexpected authority. "Father," she announced, her voice echoing with youthful conviction, "we have something to say." She gestured to Maya, who stepped forward, clutching a small, hand-drawn picture. "We, friends," Maya declared, her voice clear and strong despite her missing teeth and poor grasp of Vixari. "Maya, Zixa, friends. Vixari, Earth, friends. No, take Maya, please." The Vixari children echoed her plea, their voices rising in a unified chorus. "Friends, friends, don't take her away." The adult family members, hardened criminals, seasoned negotiators, galactic power brokers, all stood silent, disarmed by the raw, unfiltered emotion of their children's plea. Talila watched the scene unfold, her diplomatic mask momentarily faltering, a flicker of maternal warmth softening her features. She saw Maya, unharmed, happy, surrounded by obvious friends. She was a beacon of innocent connection in this den of galactic intrigue. She looked at Crixnock, his granite facade crumbling, his eyes reflecting a profound internal struggle. The standoff was no longer between Earth and the Vixari family, but within Crixnock himself, a battle for his soul, his old ways of life, the brutal, ruthless path of criminal dominance was crumbling before his eyes, undermined by the innocent bonds forged in a garden. His family, his true family, his children were pleading for something different, something more. Crixnox looked at Zixa, at Maya, at the faces of all the children, their innocent eyes fixed on him, their plea echoing in his heart. He looked at Lyra, her gaze filled with a quiet hope. He looked at his senior advisors, their expressions a mixture of fear, uncertainty, and a dawning realization that the old ways were no longer viable. He saw the representatives from the rival families, their presence a stark reminder of the shifting power dynamics, the vultures circling his weakened empire. And he understood. It was over. The old ways were dead. He had a choice: cling to the ashes of his criminal legacy and watch everything he held dear be consumed by the flames, or choose a different path. A path towards the light, towards the future his children were showing him. He took a deep breath, the weight of generations of criminal enterprise settling on his burly shoulders, and made his choice. "Ambassador Timu," he rumbled, his voice resonating with the newfound resolve, though strained by his own poor grasp of human English. "We, the Vexari family, we want a different future for our children." He gestured to the assembled family members. "We are ready to talk." The garden, once a symbol of childish rebellion, now became the unlikely ground for galactic transformation, a place where friendship bloomed amidst the thorns of interstellar conflict, and where a hardened criminal Dawn began to learn the most human of lessons, that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in power or fear, but in the simple, unbreakable bonds of family and friendship. The deal, hammered out over tense hours in the Vexari compound, was as improbable as the circumstances that had birthed it. Amnesty for past crimes, a pathway to legitimate business ventures and diplomatic protection, in exchange for the Vexari's family's cooperation in dismantling larger trafficking networks and a commitment to severing all ties to organized crime. It was a gamble, a high-stakes wager on the transformative power of the children's innocence and a mother's unwavering resolve. Ambassador Timu, ever the pragmatist, understood the risks, but also recognized the unprecedented opportunity. The Vexari, with their deep underworld connections and ruthless efficiency, could be invaluable allies in the fight against galactic crime, if, and it was a monumental if, they could truly change. That transition was chaotic, messy, and fraught with peril. Old habits die hard, and the Vexari's criminal enterprises were deeply entrenched. But Crixnox, driven by a fierce protectiveness of his children's future and a surprising sense of weary hope, threw his weight behind the transformation. Gambling dens became entertainment venues, smuggling routes transformed into legitimate trade lanes, hacking networks repurposed for secure communications and logistical support. Formal rivals, initially skeptical, cautiously extended tentative offers of cooperation, drawn by the promise of stability and the undeniable shift in the galactic power dynamic. Earth's diplomatic and economic support, channeled through Ambassador Timu's office, provided crucial scaffolding for the Vexari's fledgling legitimate business, a lifeline in the turbulent waters of their reinvention. In the midst of the upheaval, Maya and Zixa remained steadfast in their friendship, their bond a constant, reassuring presence amidst the shifting sands of their families' lives. They learned that their families would be working closely together in the transition, a partnership born of necessity, but blossoming into genuine collaboration. Maya, and her innate diplomatic intuition, became an unofficial ambassador between the two cultures, patiently explaining human customs and bridging communication gaps with her infectious enthusiasm. Zixa, in turn, introduced Maya to the intricacies of Vexari society, sharing her family's traditions and helping Maya navigate the complexities of Vexari language and etiquette. Their friendship, once an improbable anomaly, became a symbol of hope, a testament to the possibility of understanding, and connection across even the widest divides. Admiral Manili's fleet, no longer a threat, became a shield. Earth vessels patrolled former Vixari territories, deterring opportunistic predators and providing security for the nascent merchantries. Manili herself, in a series of increasingly frequent secure comm calls with Ambassador Timu, found herself drawn into the unfolding human drama within the Vixari compound. The hardened admiral, accustomed to the cold calculus of galactic warfare, found herself strangely moved by the story of a small human girl and her Vixari friends, their innocent actions sparking a revolution within a criminal empire. She authorized logistical support, resource allocation, and even, at Maya's gentle insistence relayed through her mother, the delivery of a shipment of Earth Garden seeds to the Vixari compound, a small, symbolic gesture of hope for a future where gardens bloomed, not just flowers, but with friendship and understanding. The galaxy watched, breath held, as the Vixari family, guided by the innocent hands of children and the unwavering resolve of a mother, began to walk a new path, away from the shadows of their criminal past and towards the uncertain, but infinitely brighter, promise of a shared future.